The ping from Dana's phone cut through the silence of my garage workshop like a blade. I'd been elbow-deep in HVAC parts for the past 3 hours, trying to rebuild a compressor unit that should have been scrapped years ago. But that's the thing about being a blue-collar guy in a town full of white-collar wannabes. You learn to make broken things work again. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Honey, can you grab that?" Dana called from upstairs. "I'm in the shower." I wiped the grease off my hands with an old rag and picked up her phone. The screen lit up with a text message that made me freeze. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I miss you already. Grant." I knew that name. Grant Beck, some hotshot sales rep who'd been sniffing around Dana's office for the past few months. She'd mentioned him in passing, always with that little smile that I'd stupidly thought was innocent. My hands started shaking, but not from anger. Not yet. First came the cold, calculating clarity that I'd learned from 20 years of diagnosing broken systems. Something wasn't working right, and I needed to find out exactly what was busted before I could fix it. The shower was still running upstairs. Dana's voice drifted down, humming some pop song she'd been playing on repeat lately. I scrolled through her messages, my stomach dropping with each swipe. "Last night was incredible. When can we do it again? Your husband doesn't suspect anything, does he?" 3 months. They'd been at this for 3 months, while I'd been working 60-hour weeks to keep our mortgage current, while I'd been planning our 20th anniversary trip, while I'd been like a complete idiot thinking we were solid. The shower shut off. I heard Dana's footsteps padding across the bathroom floor. Without thinking, I typed a quick response. "Come over now. My husband's working late in the garage. Won't hear a thing." I hit send and set the phone back down exactly where I'd found it. Then I waited. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Dana was still getting dressed upstairs, probably making herself look perfect for her lover boy. I walked to the front door and opened it. Grant Beck stood there holding a bouquet of gas station roses, wearing a smile that faded the second he saw my face. "Oh," he said, taking a step back. I thought... You thought my wife was home alone?" I kept my voice level, almost friendly. "She is. She's just upstairs getting pretty for you. Come on in." The color drained from his face, but he was trapped now. Couldn't run without looking like the coward he was. He stepped inside, and I closed the door behind him. "Dana," I called up the stairs. "Your friend Grant is here." The silence that followed was beautiful. Then came the sound of something dropping, probably her makeup bag, followed by frantic whispers I couldn't quite make out. Grant stood in my living room like a deer in headlights, still clutching those pathetic flowers. He was younger than me by maybe 7 years, with the kind of gym-sculpted build that screamed overcompensation. His cologne was thick enough to choke a horse. "Look, Caleb," he started. "This isn't what it looks like?" I finished. "You mean it doesn't look like you've been screwing my wife for 3 months while I've been busting my ass to pay for the house you've been doing it in?" Dana appeared at the top of the stairs, wrapped in her bathrobe, her face white as paper. She looked between Grant and me like she was watching a tennis match where the ball was a live grenade. "Caleb, I can explain," she said, her voice shaking. "No need," I said, pulling out my phone. "Your text messages already did that pretty thoroughly." I held up her phone, showing them both the conversation thread. Grant actually took another step backward, bumping into our coffee table. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued, my voice still calm as a lake before a storm. "Grant, you're going to tell me your full name, where you work, and your home address, and you're going to do it while I record this conversation." "I don't have to tell you anything," Grant said, but his voice cracked like a teenager's. "No, you don't," I agreed. "But if you don't, I'm calling the cops and reporting you for trespassing." Then I'm calling your boss and sending him screenshots of every dirty message you sent my wife using what I'm guessing is a company phone. I started recording. State your name for the record. Grant. Grant Beck, he mumbled. Louder. And your employer? Midwest Medical Supply. Look, this is your home address? He gave it. I kept recording as I forwarded the entire conversation thread to myself, then opened Dana's work email and sent everything to her HR department. There, I said, hitting send with a flourish. Now everyone at Riverside Insurance knows that their family values coordinator has been coordinating more than just family policies. Dana finally found her voice. You can't do this. This is private. Was private, I corrected. Now it's evidence. Grant, I think it's time for you to leave and take your discount flowers with you. He practically ran for the door, leaving Dana and me alone in the wreckage of our marriage. She collapsed onto the stairs, sobbing. Caleb, please. We can work this out. It didn't mean anything. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. The new clothes, the expensive highlights, the gym membership she'd suddenly needed, all paid for with money from our joint account while she was planning to throw away 20 years like it was garbage. You're right, I said. It didn't mean anything, but neither do we, apparently. I walked back to my garage, leaving her crying on the stairs. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. I had work to do. The next morning, Dana was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter, something about staying at her friend Shannon's house until we could talk like adults. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash with the coffee grounds. Shannon Reese. I should have seen that coming. Shannon had been Dana's best friend since college, and she'd hated me from day one. She worked in HR at some tech company downtown, and had always made it clear that she thought Dana had married beneath herself. If anyone was going to enable this affair, it would be Shannon. My phone rang while I was making breakfast. Coach Ray from Murphy's boxing gym. Heard you had some excitement last night, he said without preamble. Ray had been training fighters for 30 years, and had no patience for small talk. News travels fast in this town. Barb Morrison saw some guy running out of your house like his ass was on fire. She's been calling everyone she knows. Barb, our neighbor who treated gossip like a competitive sport. By now, half the town probably knew something was up. Yeah, well, turns out my wife's been getting her cardio somewhere else. Ray was quiet for a moment. You okay, son? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. For the first time in months, I know exactly where I stand. That's what worries me. You coming in today? I'd been training at Ray's gym for 15 years, ever since I quit smoking and needed something to do with my hands. It was the one place in town where being a blue-collar guy wasn't something to apologize for. Yeah, I'll be there. Need to hit something. I spent the morning at the gym, working the heavy bag until my knuckles were raw. Ray watched from across the room, occasionally shouting corrections, but mostly just letting me burn off whatever was eating at me. Around noon, my phone started buzzing with calls from clients. The first few were normal, routine maintenance, installation quotes, but then came the cancellations. Sorry, Caleb, but we've decided to go with someone else. We don't think you'd be a good fit for our family. We heard some things, and we just can't take the risk. By 2 o'clock, I'd lost 4 jobs. By 4, it was 7. Someone was spreading the word that I was dangerous, unstable, not safe to have around. I drove to Dana's office. Riverside Insurance occupied the second floor of a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, the kind of place that tried to look more important than it was, with fake plants and motivational posters. Dana's car was in the parking lot, along with a silver BMW that I recognized as Grant's. Apparently, getting caught hadn't slowed them down much. The receptionist, a 20-something kid with too much makeup and not enough sense, tried to stop me. "Excuse me, sir, you can't just—" "I'm here to see my wife," I said, walking past her toward the back offices. I found Dana in the break room with Grant and 3 other employees, including Shannon. They were all huddled around Dana like she was the victim of some terrible crime instead of the perpetrator. The conversation stopped when they saw me. Grant actually moved behind Shannon, like she was going to protect him. "Caleb," Shannon said, standing up with her hands on her hips. "You need to leave, now." "Public building, public business hours," I said. "I have every right to be here." "You're harassing my client," Shannon continued. She was a tall woman with sharp features and the kind of aggressive confidence that came from never being told no. "We have witnesses." "Your client?" I looked at Dana. "When did you hire a lawyer?" "She didn't," Shannon said. "But as her friend and an HR professional, I'm advising her that your behavior constitutes workplace harassment." I laughed, actually laughed. That's rich, coming from someone who helped orchestrate this whole thing. Shannon's face went red. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't. Just like you don't know that Grant here has been using his company credit card to pay for hotel rooms, or that he's been padding his expense reports to cover the cost of gifts for my wife." Grant's face went white. "That's not... I never... Relax, lover boy. I haven't called your boss yet, but the day is young." I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. "Midwest Medical Supply. That's your company, right, Grant? I wonder what they'd think about their sales rep using company resources to conduct an affair." "You can't prove anything," Shannon said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. "Can I?" I scrolled through the screenshots I'd taken the night before. Hotel charges on March 15th, the same day Dana called in sick. Restaurant bills on company time. Gas receipts from trips that don't match any client visits. I'd spent the morning doing research, cross-referencing Dana's work schedule with Grant's expense reports. It wasn't hard. Both companies posted their employee information online, and Grant was stupid enough to use social media to document half his life. "This is harassment," Shannon repeated, but she sounded less sure now. "No," I said, "this is consequences." I forwarded everything to Grant's supervisor, then posted a carefully worded message to the town's Facebook group. Nothing defamatory, nothing that could get me in legal trouble. Just the facts. My wife was having an affair, I'd caught them, and I thought the community should know what kind of people they were dealing with. The post got 50 likes in the first 10 minutes. Grant finally found his voice. "You're crazy, man. This is insane." "Insane was thinking you could screw my wife in my house and get away with it," I said. "But don't worry, I'm just getting started." I left them there, staring at their phones as the comments and reactions poured in. By the time I got home, my post had been shared 30 times. That evening, Dana came home. She looked exhausted, defeated. Her eyes were red from crying, and her hands shook as she poured herself a glass of wine. "Caleb, we need to talk." "Now you want to talk?" Funny how that works. She sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten breakfast together for 20 years. "I know you're angry." "Angry," I interrupted. "I'm not angry, Dana. Angry is what you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic. This is something else entirely." "Then what is it?" I thought about that for a moment. "Clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, I can see exactly who you are." She started crying again. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Shannon said..." "Shannon said what?" Dana caught herself, but it was too late. "Nothing. She thought you and I weren't right for each other." "And what do you think?" "I don't know anymore." I nodded. "Well, when you figure it out, let me know. Until then, you can keep staying at Shannon's. I changed the locks this afternoon." Her face went white. "You can't do that. This is my house too." "Was your house. But since you've been living somewhere else anyway, I figured I'd make it official." I stood up and walked toward the door. "Oh, and Dana, I canceled the credit cards, and the joint checking account, and your car insurance. You want to play house with Grant and Shannon? You can figure out how to pay for it." The sound of her sobbing followed me out to the garage, but I didn't look back. 3 days later, I got a call from the police. Officer Martinez, a guy I'd gone to high school with, sounded embarrassed. "Caleb, I gotta ask you some questions about Grant Beck's car." "What about it?" "Someone vandalized it pretty good last night. Slashed tires, keyed the paint, glued the lock shut, even spray-painted Home Wrecker across the windshield." I was quiet for a moment, letting him fill the silence. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" "Can't say I'm surprised someone did it," I said. "Man makes enemies when he breaks up families." "That's not what I asked. I was at Murphy's gym until 9, then went to Denny's for dinner, got receipts for both." Which was true. I'd been very careful about my alibi. What Martinez didn't know was that I'd gone back out around midnight after making sure Barb Morrison's bedroom light was off. Grant's apartment complex had security cameras, but they were focused on the entrances, not the parking lot. "Look, Caleb, I get it. Guy screws your wife, you want to get even. But this kind of thing what? Makes the real victim look bad? Hurts the feelings of the poor, innocent adulterer?" Martinez sighed. "Just be smart about this, okay? Don't give them a reason to come after you." After he hung up, I sat in my kitchen and smiled. The vandalism had been therapeutic, but it was also strategic. Grant would know it was me, but he couldn't prove it. And more importantly, it would make him paranoid, looking over his shoulder, waiting for the next shoe to drop. My phone buzzed with a text from Shannon. "We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Diner, 7 p.m. I showed up 15 minutes early and took a booth in the back where I could see the whole restaurant. Shannon arrived exactly on time, wearing a business suit and the kind of expression that meant she thought she was about to take control of the situation. She slid into the booth across from me and folded her hands on the table. "This has gone far enough, Caleb." "Has it? I'm just getting warmed up." "Dana made a mistake, she knows that. But what you're doing, the social media posts, the financial abuse, the property destruction, it's criminal." "Financial abuse?" I laughed. "Lady, I earned every penny in those accounts while your friend was planning to throw away our marriage. And as for property destruction, I have no idea what you're talking about." Shannon leaned forward. "Grant's car. Don't play dumb." "Grant's car got vandalized? That's terrible. Really. My heart bleeds for him." She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. "This is from the security camera at his apartment complex. Figure in dark clothing, about your height and build, walking through the parking lot at 12:30 a.m. I looked at the grainy image. Could have been anyone. "Looks like half the guys in town. You taking this to the police?" "Not yet, but I will if you don't back off." "Back off from what? My own life? My own money? My own house?" Dana has rights. Dana had rights. She gave them up when she decided to screw around behind my back for 3 months. Shannon's mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something ugly underneath. Real hatred, the kind that had been building for years. "You never deserved her," she said quietly. There it is. The truth finally comes out. She could have done so much better. College educated, beautiful, smart. And she settled for a glorified repairman who smells like motor oil and can't even afford to take her somewhere nice for dinner. I nodded slowly. "You know what, Shannon? You're absolutely right. She could have done better. But she didn't. She chose me. And then she chose to betray me. And now she gets to live with the consequences. The consequences don't have to include destroying her life." "Her life?" I stood up, dropping a 10 on the table. "Lady, I haven't even started destroying anything yet." I walked out, leaving her sitting there with her mouth open. That night, I did some research on Shannon Reese. Social media profiles, professional networking sites, public records. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Shannon worked for TechFlow Solutions as their director of human resources. She made good money, lived in a nice apartment downtown, and according to her Facebook posts, was very proud of her professional reputation. She was also married. Her husband, David, was a quiet guy who worked as an accountant for the city. They'd been married for 8 years, no kids, and from their social media presence, seemed to have a stable, boring life. Except Shannon had been lying to him for months. I found the credit card statements in her trash. People never think about what they throw away. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, gifts from jewelry stores, all on days when David was out of town for work. But the real kicker was the phone records. Shannon had been calling Grant's number 3 times as often as Dana had. Late-night calls, early morning calls, calls during business hours when she should have been working. Shannon Reese wasn't just enabling Dana's affair, she was having her own affair with Grant. The next morning, I printed everything out and put it in a manila envelope. Then I drove to the city offices and asked to speak with David Reese. He was a thin, nervous man with thinning hair and the kind of pale complexion that came from spending too much time under fluorescent lights. When I introduced myself, his face went white. "You're Dana's husband," he said. "Shannon told me about the situation." "I'm sure she did, but I bet she didn't tell you everything." I handed him the envelope. "Your wife has been having an affair with the same man who was sleeping with my wife, for longer than either of us knew about it." David's hands shook as he opened the envelope. I watched his face as he went through the evidence, the hotel receipts, the phone records, the photographs I'd taken of Shannon and Grant having lunch together while Dana was at work. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "I know this hurts, but you deserve to know the truth." David looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "How long?" "At least 6 months, maybe longer. She's been playing puppet master, encouraging my wife to have the affair while she was having her own." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because they destroyed my marriage, and now they're trying to destroy my life. Your wife threatened me last night, told me to back off, or she'd go to the police. But she can't threaten me if she's dealing with her own problems." David nodded slowly. "What do you want me to do?" "Whatever you think is right. It's your marriage, your choice. But now you know what kind of woman you're married to." I left him there with the evidence and drove home. My phone was already buzzing with angry texts from Shannon, but I ignored them. Let her sweat for a while. That afternoon, Dana called. "What did you do?" she screamed into the phone. "Shannon is hysterical. David kicked her out. She lost her job. What did you do?" "I told the truth," I said calmly. "Turns out your best friend was playing both sides. She was sleeping with Grant, too." Silence. Then, "That's impossible." "Is it?" "Think about it, Dana. Who encouraged you to have the affair in the first place? Who told you I was a bad husband? Who said you deserved better? Shannon's been manipulating you from the beginning." More silence. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. "She wouldn't do that to me." "She did do it to you, and to David, and to me. She's been pulling all our strings like we were puppets in her little drama." Dana hung up, but I knew the seed was planted. It wouldn't take long for her to start putting the pieces together. 2 days later, Grant called me. His voice was shaking with rage. "You snake! You destroyed everything." "Did I? How so?" "You know what you did. Shannon lost her job. Her husband kicked her out. My boss is asking questions about my expense reports. Dana won't even talk to me anymore." Sounds like a personal problem. "This isn't over. I'm going to—" "You're going to what, Grant? Sue me for telling the truth? Call the cops because I exposed your affair? Go ahead. I've got lawyers too." Which was a lie. I couldn't afford a lawyer. But Grant didn't know that. "I'll destroy you," he said. "You already tried that when you screwed my wife. How'd that work out for you?" He hung up. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Dana. I need to see you, she said. Her voice was different, smaller, defeated. I'm at the house. She showed up 20 minutes later, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she'd lost weight. Is it true? She asked, without preamble. About Shannon and Grant? What do you think? I think I've been an idiot. I poured myself a cup of coffee and didn't offer her one. Go on. She's been lying to me for months. About you, about Grant, about everything. She said you were emotionally abusive. She said I deserved better. She encouraged me to have the affair. And you believed her. I wanted to believe her. Our marriage was... We were drifting apart. You were always working, always tired. We never talked anymore. So you decided to talk to Grant instead. Dana started crying. I know there's no excuse for what I did, but Shannon made it seem like it was okay, like it was justified. She said you didn't appreciate me. And now you know she was saying the same things to Grant about his relationship. She was manipulating all of us. Why would she do that? I sat down across from her at the kitchen table. Because she hates me. Always has. She thought you married beneath yourself, and she's been waiting 20 years for a chance to prove it. But why Grant? Why would she sleep with him too? Because she could. Because it gave her power over the situation. She could control both sides, make sure things went the way she wanted. Dana looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Can you ever forgive me? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. I studied her face, looking for some sign of the woman I'd married 20 years ago. She was still there, underneath the guilt and the shame and the exhaustion. I don't know, I said finally. Maybe, but not yet. What do you want me to do? I want you to help me finish this. Finish what? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Shannon destroyed our marriage for her own entertainment. Now I'm going to return the favor. Caleb, she's already lost her job and her husband. Isn't that enough? Not even close. I pulled out my laptop and showed Dana what I'd been working on for the past week. Screenshots, documents, recordings, photographs. A complete timeline of Shannon's manipulation, starting from the first time she'd encouraged Dana to complain about our marriage. She's been planning this for years, I said. Every girls' night out, where she told you I was holding you back. Every time she suggested you deserved better. Every time she planted seeds of doubt about our relationship. It was all leading up to this. Dana stared at the screen. My God, she really did orchestrate the whole thing. And now everyone's going to know about it. What are you planning? I closed the laptop. The Harvest Festival is next week. Biggest event of the year. Half the town shows up. Shannon's supposed to be running the charity auction. It's been advertised for months. She won't show up, not after everything that's happened. She will. She's too proud not to. And when she does, I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person she really is. Dana was quiet for a long moment. This is going to hurt a lot of people. Good people don't have anything to worry about, but Shannon, Grant, and everyone who helped them, they're about to learn what consequences look like. And then what? After you destroy them, what happens to us? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since this whole mess started. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. She nodded and stood up. I'll help you, whatever you need. Why? Because you're right. She used me to hurt you, and I let her. I owe you this much. After she left, I sat in my kitchen and planned. The Harvest Festival was held in the high school gymnasium every year. Local businesses set up booths. There was food, music, and a charity auction to raise money for the volunteer fire department. I'd been going to that festival for 20 years. I knew every inch of that gymnasium, every person who would be there, every way in and out. And this year, I was going to give them a show they'd never forget. I called Coach Ray. I need a favor, I said. What kind of favor? The kind that might get us both in trouble. Ray was quiet for a moment. What do you need? Access to the high school's PA system during the festival. Jesus, Caleb, what are you planning? Justice. That's what they all say right before they do something stupid. This isn't stupid. This is necessary. Ray sighed. I'll see what I can do. But if this goes sideways, I don't know you. Fair enough. The next week crawled by like a wounded animal. I went through the motions of normal life, work, gym, sleep, but every spare moment was spent preparing. I printed flyers, burned CDs, practiced my speech until I could deliver it in my sleep. Dana helped, though she looked more terrified with each passing day. She'd moved back into the house, sleeping in the guest room, trying to pretend things were normal between us. They weren't, and maybe they never would be again. But for now, we had a common enemy. The night before the festival, she found me in the garage, organizing my materials. Are you sure about this? She asked. Too late to back out now. It's not too late. We could just move on. Try to rebuild. I looked up at her. Could you? Could you really just forget what Shannon did to us? To David? To everyone she manipulated and lied to? No, but I'm scared of what you're becoming. What am I becoming? Someone I don't recognize. I went back to my work. Good. The person you recognized was naive enough to trust people who didn't deserve it. This person won't make that mistake. The Harvest Festival was in full swing by the time I arrived. The high school gymnasium was packed with families, couples, and groups of friends browsing the vendor booths and eating funnel cake. The charity auction was set up on the stage at the far end, with Shannon Reese standing behind a podium, trying to look composed despite everything that had happened. She'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes, but she was still putting on a show, still pretending to be the respected community leader instead of the manipulative homewrecker she really was. I made my way through the crowd, nodding to people I knew, making small talk, playing the part of the wronged husband who was trying to move on with dignity. A few people gave me sympathetic looks or patted my shoulder. Word had gotten around about the affair, but most folks didn't know the whole story yet. That was about to change. Coach Ray found me near the basketball hoop. You sure about this? Never been more sure of anything in my life. He handed me a small wireless microphone. Sound system's all yours when you're ready, but Caleb, once you do this, there's no taking it back. I know. Dana appeared at my elbow, looking pale but determined. She's about to start the auction. I watched Shannon tap her microphone and smile at the crowd. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our annual Harvest Festival charity auction. Tonight we're raising money for our volunteer fire department, and I know this community will show its usual generosity. Her voice carried clearly through the speakers mounted around the gymnasium. In a few minutes, my voice would be coming through those same speakers. Before we begin, Shannon continued, I want to thank all the volunteers who made this event possible, and especially the local businesses who donated items for tonight's auction. The crowd applauded politely. I counted about 300 people, families with kids, elderly couples, teenagers hanging around the edges looking bored. By the end of the night, every one of them would know Shannon Reese's name for all the wrong reasons. I activated the wireless microphone and waited for my moment. Shannon was introducing the first auction item, a weekend getaway package donated by the local travel agency, when I stepped forward. Actually, Shannon, I said, my voice booming through the gymnasium speakers, before we start spending money on charity, maybe we should talk about a different kind of giving. The crowd turned to look at me, confused. Shannon's face went white, but she tried to maintain her composure. Caleb, this isn't the time or place. Oh, I think this is exactly the time and place, I interrupted, walking toward the stage. See, folks, Shannon here has been very generous lately. Generous with other people's marriages. A murmur went through the crowd. People were pulling out their phones, sensing drama. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Caleb Morris. I run Morris HVAC here in town. Been married to Dana for 20 years, been part of this community my whole life. And 6 months ago, Shannon Reese decided to destroy my marriage for her own entertainment. Shannon tried to cut off my microphone, but Ray had given me the master override. Her attempts just made her look more guilty. You see, I continued, now standing at the foot of the stage, Shannon didn't just encourage my wife to have an affair. She orchestrated it. She manipulated my wife into believing I was a bad husband. She provided alibis, helped plan secret meetings, and gave emotional support for adultery. The gymnasium was quiet now, except for my voice echoing off the walls. But here's the really interesting part. Shannon wasn't just helping my wife cheat. She was cheating too, with the same man. I pulled out a stack of photographs and held them up. Grant Beck, ladies and gentlemen. He was sleeping with my wife and Shannon at the same time, and Shannon knew it. Shannon finally found her voice. This is harassment. Someone call the police. Go ahead, I said. Call them. I've got evidence of everything I'm saying right here. I started walking up the steps to the stage. Shannon backed away from the podium, but there was nowhere for her to go. Shannon Reese destroyed 3 marriages, I announced to the crowd. Mine, her own, and probably Grant's if he had one. She lied to her husband, manipulated my wife, and used her position as an HR professional to help cover up workplace harassment. I reached the podium and set down a thick folder. It's all here, folks. Hotel receipts, phone records, text messages, photographs, 6 months of lies and manipulation all documented. Shannon made a grab for the folder, but I caught her wrist. Don't, I said quietly, just for her. You've done enough damage. She jerked away from me, tears streaming down her face. You bastard, you absolute bastard. I'm the bastard? I'm not the one who spent 6 months destroying families for fun. The crowd was getting restless. Some people were shouting questions, others were trying to get closer to see what was happening. I could see phones recording everything, social media posts being typed in real time. The really sick part, I continued, raising my voice to address the whole gymnasium, is that she enjoyed it. She got off on the power, on being able to manipulate people's lives like we were characters in her personal soap opera. Shannon finally snapped. She lunged at me, screaming, shut up, you don't know anything. I caught her easily. 20 years of physical labor had given me strength she couldn't match. But I didn't hurt her. I just held her arms while she struggled and screamed. I know everything, Shannon. I know you've been planning this for years. I know you hated me from the day Dana married me. I know you thought she could do better, and you decided to prove it by destroying what we had. The crowd was in chaos now. Some people were trying to get closer. Others were heading for the exits. I could hear sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police. But here's what you didn't count on, I said, my voice carrying over the noise. You didn't count on me fighting back. You thought I'd just roll over and take it like a good little blue-collar loser. I let go of Shannon and stepped back to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to remember this moment. Remember what happens when people think they can destroy other people's lives without consequences. Shannon was sobbing now, collapsed on the stage floor. The crowd was staring at us like we were animals in a zoo. Shannon Reese is a liar, a manipulator, and a homewrecker, I announced, and now everyone knows it. The police burst through the gymnasium doors just as I stepped away from the podium. Officer Martinez was in the lead, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Caleb, step away from the microphone, he called out. Already done, I said, raising my hands. Just finished my presentation. Shannon struggled to her feet, pointing at me with a shaking finger. Arrest him. He assaulted me. He's been stalking me. I never touched you except to keep you from attacking me, I said calmly. And I've got 300 witnesses. The crowd murmured agreement. Whatever else they thought about my methods, they'd seen Shannon come at me first. Martinez looked around the gymnasium, taking in the chaos, the phone still recording, the folder of evidence on the podium. Everyone needs to leave, he announced. Festival's over. As people filed out, I could hear them talking, sharing phone numbers, making plans to spread the story. By morning, everyone in town would know what Shannon had done. Dana appeared at my side as Martinez approached with handcuffs. "Are you arresting him?" she asked. "Depends. Shannon, do you want to press charges for assault?" Shannon looked around the gymnasium, at the scattered evidence, at the crowd of people who now knew her secrets, at the ruins of her reputation. "No," she whispered. "I just want to go home." "Then we're done here," Martinez said. "But Caleb, if I hear about any more stunts like this—" "You won't," I said. "I got what I came for." As the gymnasium emptied, I gathered up my evidence and walked out into the cool October night. Dana followed me to the parking lot. "What happens now?" she asked. I looked back at the high school, at the scene of my revenge, at the place where I'd finally gotten justice for what Shannon had done to us. "Now we go home," I said, "and we figure out if there's anything left worth saving." "Is there?" I thought about that question as we drove home through streets full of people who now knew the truth about Shannon Reese, Grant Beck, and the affair that had nearly destroyed my life. "Ask me tomorrow," I said, but I was smiling as I said it. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the victim, not the fool who'd been played by his wife and her manipulative friend. Just Caleb Morris, the guy who fixed broken things for a living. And sometimes, when something was broken beyond repair, the best thing you could do was make sure everyone knew exactly how it had gotten that way. Shannon Reese had wanted to destroy my life. Instead, she'd given me the chance to show this town exactly what I was made of. I pulled into my driveway and looked at the house I'd nearly lost, the marriage I was still trying to save, the life I'd fought to reclaim. Tomorrow I'd have to deal with the consequences of what I'd done tonight. There would be phone calls, maybe lawsuits, definitely gossip. Shannon would probably leave town. Grant was already gone. I'd heard he'd transferred to his company's Denver office. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I'd won. I'd been called a lot of things over the past few weeks. Victim, fool, cuckold, even villain. But I'd never been called a quitter, and I never would be.